Okay, let's talk about zero trust. We hear the term thrown around all the time, right? But the real question is, how do you go from this big abstract idea to an actual concrete plan? Well, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to map out that journey, and our guide is the fantastic framework from the Cloud Security Alliance.
At its absolute core, it all boils down to this one simple, powerful phrase. Never trust, always verify. This is the heart and soul of Zero Trust. It means you assume nothing on your network is safe. Every single request to access anything needs to be verified. Every single time. It's a fundamental shift away from the old way of thinking.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? A philosophy is great, but you can't just go out and buy a box of Zero Trust. So how do you translate this powerful concept into a practical, step-by-step project that you can actually implement in your organization? Well, that's where this comes in. This is our roadmap. It's the Cloud Security Alliance's study guide for their Zero Trust certification, and it is brilliant. It breaks the whole planning process down into these manageable, understandable phases. So for this explainer, we're going to walk through the key landmarks together. So here's our route for today. We're going to cover starting the journey, then get into the super important concept of the protect surface. After that, we'll look at how to map out where you are versus where you want to be, then dive into designing the architecture, and finally, we'll talk about setting up the rules that make it all work.
All right, first things first. Part 1, starting the journey. You know, like any big adventure, you can't just start walking. You need to understand the big picture, the lay of the land, and the core principles that are going to guide every decision you make from here on out. And to get that big picture, the NSTX report gives us this really helpful 5-step overview of the whole life cycle. You can see it starts with defining what you're protecting, then mapping how everything communicates, then building the architecture, creating the policies, and of course, you have to monitor and maintain it all. Now, we're really going to focus on the planning for these steps today. Now for section 2. And honestly, this might be the biggest mental shift in the entire process. We're talking about defining your protect surface. Before you can build walls or set up guards, you have to know exactly what your crown jewels are. So, what in the world is a protect surface? It's basically all of your most critical stuff. Think specific data sets, key applications, essential assets, or vital services, what the guide calls DAS elements. The key here is that a protect surface is small, it's specific, and most importantly, it's knowable. The way to think about it is as an inside-out approach. You start with what's most important, right in the center, and you build your security outwards from there. It's all about what you must protect above all else. Now, let's contrast that with what we usually talk about in security, the attack surface. This is, well, it's everything else. Every laptop, every server, every phone, every connection. Any possible point where an attacker could even try to get in. And this is that classic outside-in security model, right? You're always looking at your organization from the attacker's perspective, trying to find and patch an endless number of holes. And seeing them side by side like this, it just clicks. Your protect surface is small, definable, and doesn't change that often. Your attack surface? It's massive, it's complex, and it's growing every single day. The entire premise of Zero Trust is that it's way more effective to shrink and defend the protect surface than it is to try and secure the ever-expanding attack surface. It's a game changer. Okay, so you've identified what you need to protect. Awesome. Now what? How do you get from where you are today to that much more secure future? Well, that brings us to section 3, and your best friend for this part of the journey is the gap analysis. And it's really a pretty simple, logical process when you break it down. Step 1, you take a good, hard, honest look at where you are right now, your current state. Step 2, you define where you want to go, your target state for Zero Trust. And step 3, you build the roadmap, the list of projects and steps that will close the gap between those 2 points. And to make this less abstract, you can use a framework like the CISA Zero Trust Maturity Model. CISA is the U.S. cybersecurity agency. Just look at this example for the identity pillar. Maybe today you're in that traditional column. Your target might be to get to advanced by rolling out phishing-resistant MFA. See, the roadmap just became a real project plan to get you from column A to column C.
Okay, moving on to section 4, designing your ZT architecture. We have our map, we know our destination, now it's time to actually design the vehicle that's going to get us there. This is where we turn the plan into a technical blueprint.
And a solid Zero Trust architecture is always built on these 5 fundamental pillars. You need a strategy for each one. How you're going to verify identity. How will you ensure devices are healthy? How will you segment your networks? How will you secure applications?
And finally, how will you protect the data itself?
And think of these three as the foundation holding up all 5 of those pillars. You simply cannot have effective zero trust without deep visibility into what's happening, smart automation to handle the scale, and clear governance to tie it all together.
Which brings us to our final planning stage. Section 5, setting the rules of access. If the architecture is the body, then the policies are the brains of the whole operation. This is the active intelligence that makes the decisions.
And the guide gives us this brilliant framework for thinking about policies called the Kipling method. It's all about asking the right questions for every single access request. Who is asking? What do they want to access? Where are they coming from? When are they asking? How are they connecting? And, maybe most importantly, why do they need this access?
This is so important. We're not talking about a static allow or deny rule that you set once on a firewall and just forget about. No way. These policies are dynamic gatekeepers. They are constantly looking at the context of a request and evaluating the risk in real time before granting the absolute minimum access needed.
Now, that might sound like a huge, overwhelming project, but the good news is you don't have to boil the ocean. The guide points out that most organizations start their journey in one of 3 main areas. You could focus first on enhancing your identity governance, or you could start with microsegmentation to wall off those protected surfaces. Or maybe you adopt a software-defined perimeter. The key is to just pick one and start building momentum.
So as we wrap this up, if you remember just one thing from our time together today, please let it be this. Zero Trust is not a project you finish. It's not a destination you just arrive at one day. It is a strategy. It's a continuous journey of improving your security one step at a time.
So, I'll leave you with this question. You now have the map from the Cloud Security Alliance guide. You know the key landmarks. Your journey from a cool concept to a concrete plan has to start with a single step. So, what is it going to be? What's the very first, most critical asset you're going to place at the center of your very first Protect surface?